Hello, welcome to another episode of the Trademark Sports podcast. This week we have footy on, which is going to be coming like essentially tonight because you'll be seeing this on a Thursday. So how good is that? I know everyone's super excited for that. Although it's Warriors versus Tigers, so that's a bit how you're going. But anyway, Dano, how are you?
Mate, feeling excellent. I'm very keen for some footy this week, and I'm very keen to talk about some footy right bloody now.
That's it. So what we're going to do this week, we're going to start our team previews because we've got 4 weeks until the proper season starts. So that's 4 weeks to talk about four or so teams every week. So we're going to start with the Dolphins because they're the new side, and then the bottom four from last season. So we get straight into it. The Dolphins, right? Their gains, their major gains is their whole squad. So it's a bit hard to talk about that
Good,
there, but
good game. They've signed a lot of players,
yeah, they have this massive
more than
turnover from
anyone
last
else, I
season.
think. Yeah.
Well, yes. um, so I just got a couple key points that I wanted to talk about, and it sort of ties in with my second point. I want to say, Wayne Bennett, do you think that he still has it as one of the best coaches in the game? Because a lack of star signing could be a bit of a thing to say that, like, not that he doesn't have respect in the game, but he's not as influential as he once was.
I think possibly there is that talk around the corner that possibly he doesn't have the same sort of influence or aura as he once had. And I think that possibly is the reason he hasn't got as many signings. I think people are looking at blokes like Trent Robinson and Craig Bellamy and sort of saying they're the pinnacle, they're the epitome of what a good coach is. But I think this team will be a really good opportunity for Bennett. And I think if the Dolphins do go well, then there'll really be no question that Bennett is up there with Jack Gibson as, one of the best coaches to ever do it.
Yeah, I agree. And like, you see someone like Wendell Sailor coming out and saying that, like Tristan Sailor, who was looking for a club left, right, and center, says that Wayne Bennett doesn't have the same pull as he used to once upon a time. So I think that's a pretty like telltale sign.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, yeah, I don't know. Wayne Bennett, oh, from what I've heard from blokes who have played under Wayne Bennett, and they all love him to absolute
Mm.
pieces. Reckon I've heard stories. Apparently, Wayne Bennett he'll ring players' parents and he'll ask him, he'll say, "Oh, what's your son into? What are his interests? What's he do outside of footy?" And that's what makes players love him, makes
Yeah.
players want to play for him, and I think that's what makes him the coach that he is. It's not his actual coaching; it's his man managing.
I think like that's something that I've always heard about Wayne Bennett as well. Is like it's more like yes, the footy's important because it's their job, but it's like who are you as a man, and that's something that he's really like instilling. It's sort of stuff that you get taught in like junior rugby league that he's still implementing in the pros. So I think he's
Yes,
still definitely one of the top coaches of all time and one of the top coaches in the comp now. So
100%.
and the next point I want to talk about though is so the Dolphins squad. It's obviously doesn't jump out as one that's going to make the finals this year. How do you think they'll go without having that star player? Like, I personally think they will end up developing their own star player with Isaiah Katoa. I think he's destined for greatness. But how do you think that they'll go this season without like a bona fide star?
I I don't think it'll be a massive problem for them. I
Hmm.
think their team, they don't have any big stars, but they've got a lot of blokes who are sort of close to being sort of that big star sort of thing, where you've got blokes like Hamaso, Tabiai Fido, and yeah, blokes like that. I think under Wayne Bennett they can turn into big stars, as you said. So I honestly think they'll be. I don't know if they'll make the top eight. I think somewhere between ninth and 12th they'll
Hmm.
finish. But I think they'll have a respectable first season. I don't think they'll be bottom of the ladder. I don't think so, personally.
No, not at all. I think their roster, people go, oh, the roster's crap. I think it's actually not too bad. And they've got a good mix of experience and youth. And like, as you said, guys like Hammer, they do have that X factor that the big stars have where you can just break open a game and just make something out of nothing and completely turn the tide. And then you've
Yeah.
also got the unknowns like a Valence Tafade. Like, well, at the end of the season, we could talk about him as one of the best centers in the comp. He's like, I love that guy so much.
I better
And
say, you love that bloke. You don't stop talking
yes,
about him.
but like, and the try he scored in the on the trial on the weekend, like, imagine he like no one in the comp is stopping him when he's running like that.
Yeah, I haven't. I can't really speak too much for it. I haven't seen him play too much. I've seen a few interviews with him. He seems like a colourful character, which is you always love to see in footy. So hopefully he does do very well.
Yeah, I absolutely love the bloke. He might be my favorite player already. He hasn't even played a game of NRL. But
Wow, big
do you
call.
think, right, could the Dolphins be in trouble already with their salary cap, but for the opposite reason that we've seen before? Do you reckon they're going to get a breach, like for not spending the minimum requirement? Do you reckon they'll get fined or like lose points because they haven't spent 90% of their cap?
I didn't know that there. Do you have to spend 90% of
You
your
have
cap?
to
Is that the
spend
rules?
90% of your cap every single year, and they haven't done that.
Jeez, I
But
don't
I
know.
reckon
Like,
surely they can just upgrade some of their players' contracts so that they do.
I was about to say, just pay some players some more money. Can
Like
you just pay the
give,
coaching staff more? Are coaching staff involved in the salary
yes,
cap?
yeah, I'm pretty sure they are.
Just bump everyone up a couple.
Yeah, just give like Sean O'Sullivan extra grand, like 100 grand, Anthony Milford extra 100 grand, like just put everyone up 20, 30K. I reckon
Yep.
you'd be laughing.
I don't think the players will complain.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah, so you said you think they'll come around 9th to 12th. Is that where you predict they'll finish?
That is my prediction for where they'll finish. Correct.
Okay. I think my hopes aren't as high as yours. I've got them down for between 12th and 15th. I think like they're still going to be
Mm.
okay and be competitive in a lot of games. I actually think they potentially could take some big scalps because of like the fact is how does a team do video on them when they have never played before? So I think they could just come
Yeah.
out like round one versus the Roosters. Roosters the last couple of years have taken a while to gel. If they just come out and just blitz them, you never know. But yeah, I do think like they'll be lot more competitive than people think, but still won't be fantastic.
Anything can happen in the world of rugby league. Like in an
Mm.
ideal world, I'd love to see them make the eight. I don't know why, but there's something about the Dolphins I really want to see them go well. I think I've been following them really closely this preseason. They've almost become my second team, and I'd
Yeah.
really love to see them do well, and I hope they do.
They like what one thing they've nailed is like the media side of it. Like their Instagram pages
100%,
and
so
stuff is
good.
sick.
Yeah,
So yeah, they're obviously off to a good start there. But I think like with the way that the comp is at the moment, with like so many bottom feeders, you want them to come in and do well and not just become create another straggling team down the bottom. But we'll see how
definitely,
they go.
because that doesn't help rugby league. That doesn't help the
No.
NRL having a couple of good teams and then a bunch of shit kickers at the bottom.
Yeah.
We want everyone to do well and everyone to be competitive. You want to go into every game thinking who could win this. Anyone could win this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Andrew Abdo said that he's never seen a non-competitive rugby league game, so
Yeah.
even though the Tigers got beat 70-0 last season.
Yeah. Good on you, Andrew. I don't give a shit. Whatever.
Speaking of the Tigers, let's get on to their preview now. So their gains, they've got some massive gains, like the key gains anyway. Like obviously they've signed more players in this and they've lost more players we're going to talk about. We're going to highlight like the key squad turnover. So they've brought in Isaiah Papali'i, Api Coruscant, Charlie Staines, John Bateman, David Clemmer, and Brandon Wakeham. What do you make of their signings?
Oh, they've definitely made some good signings, particularly in the forward pack. They've got a very formidable forward pack, particularly their back rowers with Johnny Bateman and Isaiah Papali'i and their hooker. But I think at the end of the day, the forwards can go forward all day, but if they don't have a good halfback or a good set of backs to play off the back of that and turn it into points, it's really not much point. And I've made my opinion clear on what I think of the Tigers halves. I think Luke Brooks needs to go. He's not a bad player, but he's not a good player while he's at the Tigers. He needs to go.
Mm.
That is the one thing I don't understand. Everything else about their recruitment, I think they've done very well.
I was going to just mention Johnny Bateman. Apparently, they want to play him at 13. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I haven't seen him play at 13. I'm sure he'd do a good job. I don't know if he'd be better at 13 than he is as a back rower because he's a freakish back rower.
Mm.
But I think there's no harm experimenting in it, especially in the early parts of the season. See how he goes, and if he goes well, then keep him there. If not, you can always put him back in the back row.
That is true. That's a good point. So we'll go on to their losses now. Talk about some guys that they definitely should have kept. But anyway, Luke Garner, Tyrone Peachy, Kelma Tuolangi, Jacob Little, Zane Musgrove, Jock Madden, James Tarmow, Oliver Gilder, and Jackson Hastings. So there's a lot of roster turnover there, but two guys I want to highlight that definitely should still be at the Tigers, either one of them at least. Jock Madden and Jackson Hastings. How do you let either of those guys go?
That I don't understand. I don't understand. Like when they had Jackson Hastings there last year, that was when they started to look good. When that game against Parramatta and then that game against Souths, he just ran that side around and they were doing well until they moved him to lock. And I don't understand what their thinking is, why they think Luke Brooks would do a better job than Jacko, because Luke Brooks played his best footy while Jacko was there beside him. So
Yeah, and I think like with Jacko there, it let Luke Brooks free up his game and just play a bit of footy. And Adam Dewey, as much as I think he is probably suited to the halves, he could play at 1 or 3 if you had to. He could have left
yeah,
those two there running the joint, but especially because their outside backs are so bad. Adam, you might just have to like give a tap on the shoulder to Adam Dewey and say, "I know you want to play 6, but for the sake of the team, we need you to play in the centers."
well, you could play him in the centers, but you could play him as a different sort of center. I know watching State of Origin 2021, you saw Latrell Mitchell and Tom Trbojevic played in the centers, but they were all over the park doing whatever they
Mm.
wanted. You know, you could say, oh, I don't know, Adam Dewey's obviously not as good as those two, but you could
Yeah,
say play a similar role, stay out in your center. You know, most of the time when you see someone on, you want a little cameo role in the middle, you can come in, do a bit of ball playing, and then head back out to your center. I think he's a good enough player to be able to do that. So I don't know. I'm not an NRL coach, but
yeah.
in my opinion,
So it's one of those things. Obviously, it's easier said than done, but it seems so obvious.
yeah.
I think like the other signings, like the other losses, like Tuolungi's a bit of a like loss,
Oh,
and so
I
is
I think
Garner.
that's a pretty decent loss to Alangi. He
Mm.
impressed me when I watched
Like,
him
I think he'll actually be
last year.
quite good at Manly.
Yeah.
But then guys like James Tamou, Oliver Gilder, Jacob Little, and Zane Musgrave, like no disrespect to those guys, but they were like a bit of dead wood. So I think the Tigers overall, their recruitment's actually been quite good. I'd probably give it an A, to be honest. Like with the signings that have come in, like
B plus.
yeah, okay, yeah. I was gonna say, but then with the halves, like as you said, like the good point, like you need someone to direct your forwards around. And I said it a couple of weeks ago, and I'll say it again. Like in rugby league, rugby union, it's your forwards win you the game, but the backs decide by how much. And if the forwards aren't supported by their backs, then the Tigers they're still not going to be that competitive. Their centers, I'm sorry to say, but their centers suck.
Yeah, I don't like bad mouthing players, but yeah, no, that you wouldn't call them great centers or
Like
yeah,
they've all got the potential to be okay. Like, but Brent Naden doesn't strike fear into me as an opposition. Either does Tommy Talau or who's the other guy I'm trying to think of, Stafford Toa. Like none of those guys really at the moment strikes like make me fear. Especially like, for example, Dragons fan, we got Zach Lomax and Moses Sully. I'm thinking at least we got him in the centers.
yeah. Tommy Talau, I think has a little bit of potential.
He does, he does.
Yeah, the other two, I don't really know. It's definitely not a great set of pairing.
No, but so yeah, a couple of questions I wanted to ask, like how long, because of the like huge roster turnover, how long do you reckon it'll take them to gel? Because that's going to be a thing. Like they're going to need to, if they're any hope of making the finals, which I don't think they are, but if they're any hope of making the finals, they're going to need to gel very quickly. How long do you reckon it'll take them?
Oh, it's hard to say. I think a lot of how a team gels comes down to the coach, the senior players, and the preseason. I think a lot of I think you really gel when you start playing games, but I think how quickly you gel is dependent on the foundations you set during the preseason. You know, how much stuff you're doing together outside of the game, social stuff, because everybody knows you play better when you're playing with your mates. And
Yeah.
I think it goes down to in the preseason how good of mates they've become, which I think Tim Sheen's, you know, just personally, I reckon Tim Sheen's would be big on that.
Mm.
Benji Marshall as well. So I don't think it'll take him too long. I think I don't know.
The good thing as well, I think it's like,
4, 5, 6 weeks maybe.
yeah. And I think anything after that, then you're starting to like panic stations. But I think
Yeah.
like you've got Laurie, Brooks, and Adam Dewey that have played a season together. And then like Coruscant is such an experienced player that probably won't take him very long to click with those guys at all. Apart from the fact that the quality of the people he's been playing with isn't there. But I think generally you'd think that forwards would be able to click together better than backs with their halves, that kind of thing. Like I think like a couple of front rowers going to be able to gel better than some centers. I don't personally, I could be talking out of my ass, but to me that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying there. Front rowers are normally very similar people. Just they've all got something a little bit wrong with them in the head, and they normally love a good time. And yeah, you're probably right there. Oh, you love running into people too. I love running into people. Let's be friends. That's my, and no disrespect to front rowers. I'm a front rower myself, so I just yeah, I agree with you there.
There's like another thing. It sort of like goes into the gelling as well. How do you think that Tim Sheens and Benji Marshall handle the coaching responsibilities? I have a feeling that Benji's actually going to be the coach this year, and Tim Sheens just overseeing it. Will do the like interviews and stuff, and let Benji ease into it. That's the way I sort of see it. Because otherwise, what's the point of having Benji there this year to then take over?
That's a good point. I haven't thought of it that way, but it does make sense. Having Benji be the one to do the technical stuff to say, oh, these are what plays we're doing. I want this player go here, run into this hole, blah blah blah, run all the drills, and then have Tim Sheen sort of just as the man manager and the motivator,
Mm.
and he's the bloke that gets him mentally ready to play the game, and Benji's the bloke that gets him physically ready. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I get you. I think like that'll. Sorry to cut you off, but like that'll
No, you're
transition.
right.
I think next season, I feel like Tim Sheens might take over like a director of football kind of role, and then Benji becomes the Tim Sheens in that situation. Robbie Farah then comes in and becomes what
The
Benji is
Benji
this. If you
Marshall.
get what I mean, like it's sort of like
Yeah.
everything sort of rotates a little bit.
Yeah. Yep.
And because
No,
like what
yeah.
Adam Dewey's sorry, cutting you off again, but like what Adam Dewey's like said in the media last week or so, it's like pretty much talking that Benji's still just blitzing him at training. So he's obviously out there getting around the boys and being amongst them, like which is sort of what the assistant coaches kind of do. But I personally still think that he's got a bit more power than a lot of people think.
Probably as he's Benji Marshall, and he's Benji Marshall is the West Tigers. So I think I don't think there's any other bigger player that's come from that epitomizes the West Tigers more
Mm.
than Benji Marshall. So yeah, you're probably right there.
Well, that's it. Like the two guys, like I know when I think of the West Tigers, I think of like that, like growing up, they always had a good like side when we were little, and it was Benji and Robbie Farah. So having those two around the club, like it's and most of the players now, especially like they're around our generation, so they idolize these guys, which comes back to like the Wayne Bennett point before. That we're probably a bit too young for that, where like the generation before us were like, oh my god, like he's a hero, and that's the way
Yeah.
they see Benji and Robbie.
Yep. Yep. Definitely.
So yeah, where do you think that you see the Tigers finishing?
Uh I can't see him making the eight. I probably see him making the same bracket as the Dolphins, somewhere 8 to 12. I think maybe even lower,
Yeah,
maybe 8 to 14.
yeah. I've got them pretty much the same, and like I'm saying, eighth is the very upper tier, and that's if all things go into plan and stuff. But I don't think it's this year for the Tigers. Maybe a couple of seasons time. I think that backline's doing a fair bit of work, but I'm gonna say eighth to 12th. I think that's where they like. I think they'll be a lot more competitive this year. They're definitely gonna get wooden spoon again. And I think Tigers fans they'll be able to they'll have enough to get excited about.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So we'll move on, go across the Dutch, go over to the New Zealand Warriors. Their gains, they've brought in Neil Corey, Dylan Walker, Charles Nickel Klukstad, Tamade Martin, what's his name? Mitch Barnett,
Yeah,
Oh my goodness. Luke Metcalf and
you're
Jackson
right.
Ford. I think that's extremely underrated recruitment, to be honest. No one's really seemingly talking about it. I think they've recruited amazingly for what the Warriors can do.
Yeah, they've recruited pretty well, but as you said, they've recruited well for the Warriors. I don't think they're going to blow anyone out of the park. They got some good signings. I'm a big fan of Barnett, who
Hmm.
they've signed. Jackson Ford, obviously both know him. He's a good player. Dylan Walker, he's all right, but I think their best signing is Charles Clockstad,
Yeah.
or Clustar, sorry, Chance.
If you're
I
listening, which we
think
know you are.
if yeah, sorry, Chance. I think he's a great player on his day, and I think he was really good for New Zealand. Didn't really get much of a go at Canberra this year.
Yeah.
Whether that's down to form or a
I think a lot of
personal issue, I'm
like
not
if you have a
sure.
look at
But
when Chance's form dropped off, it was around when the whole pandemic was going on. It's because he couldn't see his family. I
yeah,
think getting back over to New Zealand, like familiar place, back with his, I reckon he's gonna find his best form again. I hope anyway, for his sake. I love watching Chance play.
yeah, when he's on, he's on. He's a great player to watch, and I really hope he does well. I think he can do well. I um I just hope that the Warriors, forwards and other players give him the chance and they play well to allow him to attack off the back of that, really do his best work.
Well, I think like an underrated signing for the Warriors though is like I haven't really heard much about him, and I think it's because he's a bit of a quiet player himself, and that's Niokore. I think he could be really, really good at the Warriors, like because he can cover so many positions as well. Like he can
Yeah,
play
lock,
back row,
center,
lock.
back row.
If you
Yeah.
had to, he can play him in the front row as well. So I think it'd be a really good pickup for the
Wait, he's big
Warriors.
enough.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
And
I think so too. Yeah, I didn't even haven't really heard much about Niokore signing with the Warriors. Haven't thought about it too much, but he was very good for Parramatta last year, and he was very good for the Kiwis. So yeah, good signing from them. It's good to
yeah,
get some New Zealand boys and get some Kiwi culture sort of into the team.
And that's what I think. Like a guy that was in the grand final last season, he knows what the standard is that you have to meet to get to a grand final to be a top four side. So just like having a guy in there to set standards and bring culture in, and as well, one game that I didn't mention there was they've got a brand new coach, Andrew Webster, who was at the Panthers too. So two guys from good systems that can hopefully instill a bit of culture and a winningness anyway into the Warriors.
You would hope so, but I don't have my
Yeah.
hopes very high for the Warriors, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, let's talk about their losses real quick. They've lost Ewan Aiken, Reece Walsh is a big one, Eli Katoa, which I think is a big one as well for the future. Aaron Penne has gone back to the Storm. Jack Murchie, Dejan Arce, and Chanel Harris Tavita are the big losses I see from their squad from last season.
Yeah, I think the biggest losses there are Harris Tavita and Reece Walsh.
Yeah.
Reece Walsh, they should have tried harder to hold on to him. Like he could have been the future of that club and the face of that club for a lot of years to come. I think he's got big potential in the NRL.
I think though
Yeah,
with Reece Walsh, there was some external factors in play as to why he had to leave though. So I think the Warriors are a good club in terms of like they understand compassionate ground. Same as reason like Jack Murchie, like he had a baby, so he wanted to stay in Australia with like his family and also his partner's family. So for them to allow him to do that's pretty cool from the club. So
they're obviously very good with players. Like they let Matt Lodge go and still, what do they pay him out the last 2 years of his contract or
yeah,
something?
yeah.
He he must be the nicest bloke in the world. Whoever's making them deals, I want to go have a beer with him.
I got to
Probably
say, Matt
shout.
Lodge is the nicest bloke in the world.
Oh no,
No.
Probably shout you 20,000 beers. Whoever said, yeah, righto, Matty, we'll pay you out the rest of your contract. I
Yeah.
can't understand that, but yeah, and Harris Tavita as well. Obviously, there wasn't much they could do about that. He
Yeah, it's true.
decided he wanted to retire. So if you want to call it that, go traveling. Which good on him. Not many players do that. So he wanted to do that. He's done what he wanted to do. He's only young, so good on him.
Yeah, I agree. Good on him. I got the same question as I did for the Tigers. How long does it take these new signings to gel together? I think this one could be a bit different. I don't know. I feel like because there's a lot of key players in here, so I think Chance plays fullback and Tomato Martin plays 6, but then you've got either Volkman or Johnson playing 7, and it's like and then even Walker playing 14 coming on as like a ball player. There's a lot more change in their spine, so I think the Warriors could have a bit more teething issues.
Yes, I agree. I think they're a team that we might not see gel fully until maybe midway through the season if they
If that,
fully
yeah.
gel at all. Yeah.
And then Andrew Webster, of course, like I just mentioned before, first time head coaching. Now, he's come from the Panthers, and so there's obviously like good stock there. But the thing that concerns me is that Cameron Serraldo also come from the Panthers, and Panthers did everything to try and hold on to him. And then Andrew Webster, they were sort of just like, okay, off you go. Like it seems like there's a bit different pedigree and prestige that at least the Panthers saw. And we also saw the last time a Panthers assistant coach take over a team, it was the Bulldogs with Trent Barrett, and that didn't really go very well.
Yeah, well, I think a coach coming from a good system doesn't mean a lot. I'll give you an example. No offense to Adam O'Brien, but he was with Melbourne. He was under Craig Bellamy for a lot of years, and then under Trent Robinson you'd have to say to the two best coaches in the game and two of the best coaches of modern times, and he hasn't done too much with the Knights. So,
and another guy,
yeah, I don't
Justin
put a lot of
Holbrook.
pedigree. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
So
I'm not getting my hopes up too much for Andrew Webber. I hope he does well. I think he seems like a really nice guy from the interviews I've seen, and I hope for the Warriors as well. Like their club and their fans deserve to have some success and just taste a bit of winning. So I really do hope it happens for them. But as you said, I just can't really see it.
me either. Yeah, no. If I'm going to predict where they're sitting on the ladder, I'm saying bottom four.
Yeah, okay. So I've got them as like one of my swing sides for the year this season because I think like if they can make the most of playing in over in New Zealand again, gets like win 80% of the games over there and then jag a few in Australia, they could get close to the finals. This is all wishful thinking, but I've got
Uh,
them like predicted finish. How's this? Just sitting on the fence, 8th to 16th.
Oh, 8th to 16th. Wow, that's some good rugby
Really
league
put my balls
analysis
on the line
there.
there.
Yeah, wow, big call, big call. Uh well, yeah, obviously in an ideal world, you'd love to see everyone go good. You'd love to see the Warriors make the top 8, but I just cannot see it happening. Not this year and not for a few years.
I
Sorry to
think
say,
like
Warriors fans.
I've just got a soft spot for the Warriors. I think like I used to love watching guys like Kevin Locke and Sean Johnson go about their work back in the day, and having
Yeah,
Jackson Ford there as well, like a bloke that I've known since I was very little over there. Like
yeah,
I want to see him do well, especially, but the Warriors as well. I don't know. Footy's good when the Warriors go on good.
yeah, yeah. It would be great to see, to see a fully packed out. Is it Mount Smart Stadium they play at?
Yes, I believe so. It's still that.
Fully packed out Mount Smart Stadium with all the Kiwis there holding up signs, cheering for their team. You'd love to see it, and you'd love to see them get some wins. But I
And I
just
think there's guys there that's got that Warriors flair again, like Tamari Martin, like Dylan Walker, guys like that can just I don't know. They just embody what the Warriors are about. So fingers crossed for them. Anyway, we'll go on to the Knights now. Talk about their gains. Jacko Hastings, Adam Elliott, Tyson Gamble, Lockie Miller, Jack Hetherington, and Greg Marzu. What do you make of that, you Knights fan? Take the floor.
I reckon they're a couple of great signings. I love all of those signings. I think they're all fantastic. Hastings is the biggest one that I'm most excited about. I think that's really what we've been lacking the last couple of years since Mitchell Pearce left is a dominant, controlling halfback. I think we were going really well. Mitchell Pearce was there, and Jacko spent a lot of time under Mitchell Pearce when they were at the
Trickies.
Roosters together. Yeah, and I think Jackson's older now. He's had experience. He's played over in England. He's played in grand finals in the big games. He's got a lot more level head than he had when he was younger, and he's I think hopefully fingers crossed he's the bloke to take the Knights out of the bottom 8 and into finals footy. I hope.
I just think even in general, he's a great signing for the club because his footy IQ is just insane. Like I honestly think Jacko might do better things as a coach than as a player. He's the way he talks about the game. It's just
Yeah.
he's just a level above nearly anyone else I've ever heard talk about it. Like I think his footy mind is on the level of like the guys you see on the TV. Like you hear Matty Johns and Cooper Cronk talk. They talk about the same things that Jacko does, and Jacko's in his 20s. Like it's insane.
Oh, I think as Jacko is such a student of the game, like
Mm.
I've sat there and spoken to him about footy, and he goes, "Oh, what about back in 1993 in this game? This player, he did this play and went to that." And you just look at him, you're like, "What the fuck? How do you remember that?" And
Yeah.
he is such a
He just
student
loves
of the
footy.
game. Yeah, 100%. Just footy mad, and I think he's really studied it a lot. He's worked so hard to get to where he is. Obviously, had some setbacks, but I really think he can do a lot for the Knights. I'm really hopeful.
I think one thing I think, and you agree with me, is that the Knights have recruited to their holes in their squad. I think they've really, really looked at their squad and gone, right, this is where we need to improve. Let's go out and do it. And they've filled their gaps. They've got a good half. They've got a good lock. They've brought in someone who can play fullback because Pong's moving to 6. But I do have an issue with something they've done there. But like Jack Hetherington brings in a bit of door, a bit of mongrel to their pack. Greg Marju, another strong winger on the other side. Like, if they can fix up his defensive issues, then that's sweet. But I think with the Lockie Miller signing, they've sent, I can't remember his name now, the under 19s Blues front rower the other way to the Sharks. And I think that's such an L. They really should have held on to him.
Yeah, oh, maybe, but I think probably more focused on their first grade, so they're not thinking about. They've got a few good young forwards coming through with Dill Lucas, not Dill Lucas, who freaking Matt Croker.
Mm. And Backcrocker's younger brother too is pretty good.
Yeah, they got some good forwards coming through. So I think they were just really wanted to get Ponga to six. I think Andrew Johns had a lot to do with that. He's spoken about Kalen Ponga behind an organizer like Jackson Hastings could possibly become one of the best attacking 5'8s in the comp. So I
Mm.
think that was their main priority. That's just me guessing. I don't know anything about it, but
Yeah,
I like the signing of Lachlan Miller though. I think he's
me too. And it could pay
yeah.
dividends in the future, this swap deal. Like, who knows how this guy that's gone down to the Sharks is actually going to go in first grade, or if the Knights could also have 30 other good juniors waiting in the wings. Like, it's such a big catchment area. So we don't know. We have to wait and see.
Yeah, exactly. But
Uh, yeah, what are you going to say?
nothing. Just talk shit about how good the Knights are. You go on.
Okay. All right. So we'll go into their losses now. Mitch Barnett's pretty, like, probably their second biggest loss, I'd say. Anthony Milford, Edgerly, Sexy Texy, Suase Sue, David Clemmer, and Chris Randall all out the door. They've got rid of a fair bit of dead wood that was on some decent money. So I actually like the Knights recruitment this season.
Yeah, no huge losses there. Like Milford, obviously a good player, but didn't do too much for us. I'm not devastated about that. Clemmer, I've always loved Clemmer. I've been a massive fan of it, but as much as I hate to admit it, he hasn't been at his best. The
He was your
last,
best forward last season.
yeah, I don't know. There's just like he missed out on Origin and that, which he just I think the Safedi brothers really took over. Obviously, he was upset that he wasn't getting the start, but the Safedi brothers are killing it, so you couldn't start it
Yeah,
over him. It's just
you can
sad to lose
see.
him, but I think I think it was the best outcome for both parties for him to move on. Hopefully, he can
Hmm.
play some really good footy at the Tigers, and the Safedi brothers can just take over and lead the side forward.
Think like you can see the reason why they put the Saifidi boys ahead of him because they're still young. Like they've still got at least 6 or 7 years of footy ahead of him. Where Clemmer is unfortunately for him at the twilight of his career, and like when the Knights aren't winning, like they were looking to the future. And I think that's
Yeah,
like definitely why they did that. So yeah, it can be justified as to why you got rid of David Clemmer, except you're still paying him a lot of money.
yeah, that hurts a bit paying him the money, but that's contract shit.
Yeah, you can't do
Yeah,
much about
it's
that. That's just the
stuff
way the game
happens.
works.
Mitch Barnett is a big loss as well. I've always been a really big fan of Mitch Barnett, and I've thought if he could string some good games together or a good season together, I think he's the type of player who could play State of Origin.
Mm.
So I doubt he can do that at the Warriors. Get to form good enough
Yeah.
to play news for Origin, but he probably couldn't do it at the Knights either. So hopefully he does well. Big fan of Mitch Barnett. Sucks to lose him, but I think our gains certainly outweigh our losses.
That's true. I got a question for you. Do you think Adam O'Brien lasts the season as head coach of the Newcastle Knights?
Oh. If it gets to midway through the season and we've lost more than we've won, he goes. If we've won more, he stays.
Okay, so yeah, so like obviously very results dependent, but how long do you think the Knights have tolerance for him for this season? Do you reckon he's got 12 rounds or a bit less?
8 to 10.
Yeah, okay. And what is your predicted finish for the mighty Newcastle Knights?
My heart says from 4 to 8, but my head says 8 to 12, somewhere in
Yeah,
there.
that's
But
exactly where I've got them too. Like they're the kind
nine,
of team
maybe.
the kind of team that like their squad looks really good this year. I've always been high on their forward pack. They've improved in the right areas. They could push the 8. They were there a couple of seasons ago, so there's no reason why they can't do it again if everyone plays to their best.
Yep.
But there's I don't know. There's some. Is Adam O'Brien really that good of a coach? There's other factors. How's Pong going to go at 6? So that's why I haven't got them cemented in the 8 for me.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So move on to our final team preview of this episode before we get into some trial chat and some other stuff. But the Gold Coast Titans, their big gains are Kieran Foran, Chris Randall from the Knights, who just spoke about, Sam Verrills and Aaron Shop. I think they're all like 4 very handy pickups.
Yeah, very good. Shoppy is he's an excellent player. Obviously, a junior from down our way.
Mm.
Everything I've seen him play, and I've I've seen highlights of him. I remember watching him play in the juniors, and he was a freak then. He's been very good for the Bulldogs. He's a good pickup. Foreign hopefully brings some experience to the spine.
Much needed
Um,
experience too.
yeah, probably be good for the culture up there as well. Who are the other two signings you said?
Chris Randall, so backup dummy half, and Sam Verrills.
Yeah, Verrills, obviously, comes
Very
from a great
handy.
system. Yeah, hopefully he can do some good things. He can bring some of that winning culture from the Roosters. And I always liked Randall at the Knights. I always thought he was good whenever he had to be good. So hopefully he can do it for the Titans as well.
So just to quickly talk about their losses. They've lost Kevin Proctor, Greg Marzu, Osako, and Jared Wallace, which I think really Marzu is probably the biggest loss there. And even still, like, wasn't get much of a crack. They've just pretty much thrown out some dead wood. So I think it's quite handy recruitment for the Titans. They've got a lot of youngsters coming through, like really good young forwards and backs. So I think that's what their recruitment strategy was for this season, sort of build around those guys.
Yeah, I actually like Jared Wallace, and I think
Yeah, he's a toiler. Like he's nothing
yeah,
flashy, but he's a rugby league. He's a nut trucker. He'll just get there and just
as you know, they're some of my favorite players, blokes who don't do anything flashy. They just do their job.
yeah, head down, tackle hard,
Yeah,
run hard.
yeah, I love that. I love seeing that. Weirdly,
um, but yeah, I was gonna say just quickly, like I think out of that SG ball team that Aaron Shot was part of, he was part of that Steelers side that had like Tyrell Sloan, Bud Sullivan,
Bud
Junior Road. He's
Sullivan.
probably
Yeah,
been the best player to date in the NRL from that. Would you say?
yeah, yeah, I think so. Because yeah, I think so. I agree with that.
Sick. So
Yep.
I was gonna say, like a bit like Adam O'Brien, do you think Justin Holbrook lasts the season up at the Gold Coast?
I think he does. Yes.
Yep. What you think they
Yep.
can turn it around up there?
Yeah, I've just got a funny feeling that the Titans won't get rid of him, even if they don't do too well. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't get a vibe that they're going to get rid of him.
There's also the issue that I suppose every club that's looking for new coaches has is that there's none really out there at the moment apart from like Des Hasler and Shane Flanagan. No one wants to touch. So
I can't understand that when I was to touch Shane Flanagan.
because he's cheated twice.
Yeah, and he's won. If you
Yeah.
check, personally, I don't.
Everyone cheats. He just got caught twice.
He got caught, unfortunately. But yeah, everyone cheats. I couldn't care less. And I think if Newcastle get rid of Adam O'Brien, I'd love to have Shane Flanagan there. And obviously, what he did for Cronulla took him to their first premiership ever.
That is true.
I reckon he'd be a great pickup if you could get Shane Flanagan. I don't understand why no one will touch him.
So another question I got about the Titans is, what do you reckon their spine's going to be? And well, so I think whatever there is for round one needs to be their spine until at least round 12, obviously barring injuries. But what do you think they should go with as their 1, 6, 7, 9?
Okay, I think at 1 you have Campbell, at 6 Brimo, 7 Foreign, and 9 Verrills.
Yeah, so I agree. Like if they want to win this season,
Yep.
I think that's their best recipe to win. Obviously, I see why you'd have a guy like obviously I see why you have Foreign at 6 and then bring in a Sexton or a Boyd there
Yep.
for the future.
Yep.
But I think like you have to have Jaden Campbell and AJ Ribson in your team somewhere
I think
in the starting side at least.
alternatively, you could also have Brimo at the back, Foreign at 6, like Sexton at 7, Verrills at 9, and you can have Campbell as a 14.
Yeah, which I think is, from what I've heard is where they're going to go.
Yeah, you could play him a similar way that the Storm played Ryan Pappenhausen when he first came into first grade. Bring him on sort of, 10, 15 minutes left in the first half around
Just
a
let
bunch
him
of
run
tired
rampant.
forwards and just say, go do whatever you want. Yeah.
I think I personally would probably pick Tanner Boyd over Sexton though. I
Yep.
think Sexton might benefit from a season in a Q Cup just to get back to playing footy. I think
Yep.
he had a bit of second year syndrome, but look, that's neither here nor there. And like, as I said, I just think they need to pick and stick.
Yeah, probably. I think that's the key to success for any team. It's hard when you're losing,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think picking and sticking is usually the way to go successful in a comp.
So I think as well, something that's going to lead to a lot of Titan success is David Fafita. He's like last year of his contract, so he wants to play good to get big money. And I think Kieran Foran will be able to get the best out of him. What do you think?
Oh, you hope so. David Fafita is such a funny player. Like on his day, he is the most devastating forward in the comp and can do things you just look at and go, that's not humanly possible. He looks like
Yeah.
he looks like a 12-year-old playing under nines. Like he just looks bigger and stronger than
Yeah.
everyone else.
Remember there was a try scored against the Dragons. I think he scored a
Is
hat
that
trick
when he
against us.
picked it up from hooker and
Yeah,
just
and then just
ran through
like
about four people?
yeah, had like three grown men on him and still was like, no, I'm putting this ball down in the corner. It was stupid. That's the
As
kind
a
of thing you
coach, you
can
must
bring to a
be
team.
as a coach, you must be pulling your hair out, going, bro, just do that every time.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it's probably a mental thing with his, what's going on in his head with his social situation going on. I don't know anything about it, but I think a lot of form, especially with young blokes, is dictated by what's going on in their heads and what's going on in their lives outside of footy.
that is true. I think something as well was like you watched the Titans play last year, and they just gave him the ball when there was like yeah, like they obviously gave him early ball, but there was nothing open for him. They just had three blokes just swamp him. What's he going to do? Where you watch when Fogarty was playing with him the season before, and he's putting him through holes, isolating him one on one with defenders, and that's why he played a lot better. I think,
Yeah, it's
and
kind of like
Foreign can do that.
it's kind of like the Titans and panic. Go, there's nothing on here, and just go, oh, David, get it, do something, and
Yeah,
because he's one of those players that sometimes you give him the ball and he makes something out of nothing.
yeah.
But you do it over and over
You can't
again.
rely on it though.
No, no way.
I think, like as I said, like having four in there, he'll be able to help guys coming through like Tanner Boyd, Sexton, even Tommy Weaver. I believe, pretty sure his first name is Tommy. The bloke played under 19s Origin last year. He's up in the Gold Coast, so helping those guys to be able to isolate that, like, well, yeah, work on that, and then execute it in Q Cup so they can get the confidence up before grade. But yeah, where do you see the Gold Coast Titans finishing in 2023?
Uh, can't see him doing too well. I think I'd say bottom four,
Okay,
unfortunately. But
interesting.
in the top end of the bottom four, I'm
Right.
thinking 14th, something like that.
Well, don't worry,
14th.
Titans fans. I've got a bit more hope for you. I think I've got them pretty much the same area. I've got every other team here, 8th, 12th.
Yeah, yeah. It's
That's what's
anything can
hard about
happen.
this year, especially at the start of the season, is that you always get hyped for every team. And I've got so many, like I swear I've got 8 teams that are going to fit between 8th and 12th. It's just not going to happen. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of teams that are on similar pegging this year, like level pegging.
Which is what you want. You want to
Yeah.
see teams similar, and ideally you want to see them all sitting. You say, oh, they could all finish in the top four. But
And this could what I'm saying right now could change. Like my thoughts could change by next week after watching this weekend's trials. So we'll run through quickly about what games are on what day and that sort of thing. So Thursday we've got the Warriors taking on the Tigers over in New Zealand, which would be good to see. And
yep.
Friday night is a double header at Gosford, Knights versus Sharkies and Rabbits versus Manly. Then Saturday we've got the All-Star game and then the grand final rematch in the trials of so we've got Penrith versus Eels. And then we also have Dragons versus St. Helens, which would be pretty cool to see. The two Saints go head to head against each other.
I'll
Down
be
in
there at that
Wollongong.
game. Yep.
So if you see Dano there, make sure you got to say hello. And then we've
I'll be
got
drunk.
on Sunday, we've got 4 games. We've got Storm versus Roosters, Raiders versus Dogs, Cows versus the Fins, Fins up. And
Fins
then
up, baby.
Broncos versus the Titans. So is there any guys that you've seen, especially like as a Knights fan, I don't know if you've checked the team list. Any guys that you're looking forward to watching play the trials this weekend?
Oh, naturally, I'm excited to see Jacko play at 7 for the Knights. The Dolphins game, I'm very excited to see Jack Bostock,
Yes.
young bloke
Impressed
from our
last weekend,
area.
that's for sure.
Yeah, my brother played all his junior footy with him. I've played a few games with him.
First
He,
professional player from the Stingrays, I believe.
yeah, well, that wouldn't be hard.
So
But he was good last week in a team of mostly reserve graders. But so hopefully he can do well. This week in a team of a lot of first graders. Hopefully he can impress. I'd love to see him get a starting spot in first grade. I don't think he will. There's a lot of good
it'd be
players there,
awesome
but
to see. But I reckon he'll
I'd
get a crack
love
at
to see it.
some stage this season. He's on a
I think
development
so as
contract,
well.
so he can't play for the first few rounds. But I think at some point he will get a crack.
Yeah, I think so as well. Especially around Origin time, if Dolphins lose a few players to Queensland.
Yeah, like for example, if the Hammer goes to Queensland
Yeah,
or whatever. So
yeah.
So for me, the guys that I'm looking forward to, like Jackson Ford, I'm really keen to see how he goes. Warriors for his first game. Dylan Lucas at the Knights, I want to see how he goes.
Yep.
There's a few guys from Manly I want to see how they go.
Is Dylan Lucas from Albion Park?
He is. He grew up playing Albion Park, bit of West too, I believe.
Yep.
But yeah, a guy from Manly with one of the best names ever, Gordon Chankung Tong. What a guy! Like, he's dummy half. I reckon he's a shout for the 14 spot for them. So I'd like to see him play.
How old is he? Is he young?
He's same age as Ben Trebojevic and Josh Schuster, I believe. Pretty sure he was part of that SG ball team. So
okay, so how old is that one? 22? 20, yeah, all right.
Obviously, I want to see the Dragons play. And a guy coming off the bench, he's named number 28. He's from Gerringong too, under 18s boy from last season. Train and trial with the Dragons all year.
Is that Egan?
Yes, Dylan Egan. Yeah. I'm really excited to see. He probably won't get many minutes, but I'm saying just for him to go out and have a crack, get a taste of men's footy.
Josh Corrick as well is playing in it.
Yes, Josh Corrick.
Another lad from Albion Park.
And Jackson Sherab too, who's from Thirroul, but those are two guys that I think could get a crack at NRL this year. So I'm keen to see how they go against
Connor Mulheisen as well on the side.
Yes, but he's playing six.
He's a hooker normally. Yeah,
I mean, we have no sixes at the moment, so I get it, but it's annoying.
Yeah, he's I hope he does well. He's a good bloke, Connor Mulheisen. He's a really good bloke. So I hope he does well. I'd love to see. He's a Thirroul boy as well.
Yes, he is. I think he has a chance of making the Dragons team as well because the 9 positions definitely not locked down by Jacob Little.
Yeah, how hard can it be to fucking make? You or me could probably make the Dragons side.
Nah. Honestly. Yeah. So go Sunday's games that I'm keen to watch. Plays I'm keen to watch. Tyron Wishart get the 6th jersey at the Storm, which I mean, if Pappenhausen at the start of the season, Munster to 1, Wishart to 6, who knows? Jack Howarth as well. Always keen to see him play. Jonah Pezzett too. And then keen to see how the Doggies youngsters go. Obviously, just watch the Dolphins. They just excite me. And then Shalom off. I honestly can't pronounce his last name, but I versed him against Albion Park as well. He's a gun. So
a lot of good players coming out of Albion Park, eh?
I know. It
might be good signs.
They won. They didn't lose a game in my age group, all fucking juniors.
They won the comp our first year 18s together. We both played at Gerringong.
Yes, because that was
Dogs.
This stupidly good team. Anyway,
remember they had Walsh and Borley and they had all. Yeah, Brizzo.
Brizzo.
Yeah, they had a lot of really good players, and those two blokes you mentioned, Walsh and Borley, both playing in the Group 7 versus Indigenous All Stars game. 25th
that's
February.
This weekend too, or is it next weekend?
Next weekend, 25th.
Next weekend. There you go. So if you're down in the South Coast area, get down to that. It'll be a good day. Always is good fun.
Yeah.
So what we'll get onto new segment. We'll probably do this every single week, and it's just a bit of fun. Obviously, you can only participate if you are above 18 and of gambling age. But let's just go through All Stars Best Bet. That's obviously it's the only game at this weekend I think that you can actually probably bet on. And so Dano, take away the floor. I know for a fact that you've helped some of our mates get some pretty good winners. So pay attention, people.
Yeah, I won $9.5 for one of my mates once off a bet. All right, this it's a multi I've got. So I've got the Maori All Stars winning 1-12. I've got Josh Addo-Bra first try scorer.
He's not playing, bro.
Okay, I don't have him as first try scorer. Forget about that. I've got Maori All Stars 1-12. I've got Britt Nakora anytime try scorer and Jordan Rapana anytime try scorer.
Ooh, I don't mind that at all. Actually, do you know what that's paying or?
No, I just thought of it.
All right, no worries. That's all right. Yeah. I'll let the people, the punters, know how much that will be paying. So,
can we get Tab as a sponsor, like as a partner?
Hopefully, Tab.
Can we get Laurie Daly on the podcast to come and do it like he does for Matty John show? We're as big as them.
Exactly. Tab, reach out. Some young up and comers. We're going places, all right? You want to be on board. Laurie Daly.
We love a punt.
I'd love to have a chat to you. All right, over to my All-Stars Best Bet. I've also got the Māori team coming out on top head-to-head, which is interesting. They're paying $2.55. They're not favourites.
Really? With that forward pack?
Yeah, well, Nelson has dropped. There's been a few dropouts the last few days for the Māori team, so that's why.
Hasn't Manu's dropped out as well, has he?
Yeah, Joey Manu, Jarrah Hargraves, Nelson. But their team, I think in Rotorua too, over at New Zealand, the first, I just see them getting beat.
Nah, yeah.
Anyway, so my multi anyway is The multi-team head-to-head. Hayes Perham scores a try because the Bulldogs. They've just been absolutely talking like so much about him. Apparently, he's going to absolutely kill it. Got him anytime try scorer. And Trell Mitt, baby, first time he's going to score a try in the All-Star game, and that gives you $10.50. Get on it.
Fun fact about Hayes Perham: his brother played for the Stingrays.
There you go.
Chance Perham, very good looking bloke. Also a rapper. So, hit him
Chance
up,
the
listen to his
rapper.
tracks. That's literally his name. His name's Chance, but with an S. Good dude too. Very good looking also.
There you go. There's a little cheeky shout out to Hayes Perham's brother.
Chance.
Right. That'll do us for another week of the Trademark Sports podcast. Thank you guys for listening. If you made it this far, there's something wrong with you.
I don't know how. I don't know how made it this far they have. You
know what? If you made it this far, drop a comment in the YouTube video. Let's say, drop Stingray. If you made it this far, just say a comment saying Stingray. People who don't make it to the end will be like, what the hell is going on? And we know that they're not real fans. So if you're a real one, drop Stingray in the comments. Thank you guys for watching.
Everybody wants to be a real fan.
Exactly right. All right. See you guys next week. Thanks for watching.
See you guys.